Today we are going to have the second session of pulmonology about three important things, that is the infectious pulmonary diseases, interstitial lung diseases, and the pulmonary neoplasms. When you came across a bronchiectasis patient, when you take an hemoptysis history, what do you find majority of the hemoptysis in the bronchiectasis? Do they have a mild or a moderate or a severe?
Moderate.
Moderate, okay. Anyone else want to try?
Mild,
Why mild? Why moderate? What is the reason?
because there is no vasculature affected, so we can't expect massive hemoptysis, mainly due to distortion of lung parenchyma.
And whenever there is asthma, eosinophilia, elevated IgE levels, then more favor of allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. So these are few clues for you to find in the question so that it will help you what we can say decide the answer. So these are the three important in the beginning what I have told HRCT classification of bronchiectasis. The one is cylindrical. Cylindrical is also called as tubular. And then we have varicoid, which will be of this varicoid shape. Okay, and the third is a cystic. Cystic is will be having a cyst. So this is the most severe form of the bronchiectasis. So etiological workup. How do you do a workup for a patient of bronchiectasis? There are a panel which has to be done in all the patient, and there are few which has to be done in a indicated patient. So as per the ERS guideline, what they tell is you have to evaluate all the patients with the CBC, and very important addition is immunoglobulins, because they are seeing more patients with immunodeficiencies. And for ABPA, we have an ABPA screening panel. Don't worry, I'll discuss about this individually in subsequent slide. And of course, we have to send for sputum culture. The importance of sputum culture will be taught in the microbiology. So coming to the severity, how do you assess severity? We have two important severity score, bronchiectasis severity index and facet score. Okay, so bronchiectasis severity index is recommended now for severity assessment. Facet score is not preferred, and bronchiectasis severity index has 9 parameters. So just you remember, it has 9 parameters, so the cutoff is 9. Okay, so when the parameter is 9, the cutoff is 9. When you tell more than 9, that means it is a severe bronchiectasis. Okay, so microbiology, in the mild to moderate diseases, we do find Haemophilus influenza. If there are risk factor, underlying structural lung diseases, immunocompromised status, then we have a culprit, that is Pseudomonas aeruginosa. It is not a very simple organism because it includes the more severe disease. It can cause higher hospitalization rate and increased mortality. So having Pseudomonas inside a bronchiectatic lung is not what we can say safe. That's why the recent guideline, what they tell, the latest 25, what they tell, even though if you get a one isolation in the first attempt, if you get an isolation of Pseudomonas aeruginosa, always go for eradication therapy. So airway clearance therapy, as I mentioned, it is recommended for all the patients. So whenever you see any bronchiectasis patient, you have to advise airway clearance therapy. These are the techniques of airway clearance. Okay, so these are the techniques, and drugs which are used for airway clearance are hypertonic saline and isotonic saline. Okay, we do have other molecules like ambroxol or N-acetylcysteine in the nebulized form that can also be used. So acute exacerbation is more than 3, what we can say, following symptom for more than 48 hours. So any of these 3 symptoms has to be there for more than 48 hours, and you have to obtain a what we can say sputum culture. So treatment remains the same. So hospitalization is required only when there is a massive hemoptysis, hemodynamic instability, or respiratory failure and hypoxia. So you can see this is a fissure which is limited by the fissure. Okay, so this was a patient of what we can say a community acquired pneumonia. We have treated with appropriate antibiotic, and this is an X-ray after 8 weeks. Okay, there were serial X-ray resolution, and this is an X-ray after 8 weeks. So coming to aspiration pneumonia, yes, this is also a kind of pneumonia which we do see in a day-to-day practice. And these are certain predisposing conditions. It won't occur in almost all the patients, especially patients of stroke, dysphagia, reduced level of consciousness, who doesn't have the, what we can say, proper swallowing reflex. So in those patients, we are going to see aspiration pneumonia. So these are the patient's position, and common organisms are anaerobic. Okay. So what are the latest, high-yield guideline updates? So we have a 4-month rifampicin and moxifloxacin regimen. Okay, 4-month rifampicin and moxifloxacin regimen for a drug susceptible, what we can say, pulmonary TB. For drug-resistant TB, we are coming with bedaquiline, levofloxacin, linezolid, and clofazimine. Again, 6-month regimen. And we also have for diagnosis urine TB lamp. It was there before, but now it is getting emphasized, especially in patients who are having HIV or profound immunosuppression. And in India, we have come up with the SciTB. The IGRA components, that is ESAT6 and CFP10, they are used in a skin test. Okay, so here we have a single cutoff. We don't have a multiple cutoff like a tuberculin skin test, 5, 10, 15, 20. No, single cutoff is there. It can be done in the field work, and especially it is used under NTP for selected high risk.